Welcome to Raising OKC Kids, Conversations with Metro Family in Oklahoma City. I'm Erin Page, and today I'm joined by Tiffany Hammond, who is here to give us tips for supporting, celebrating, and advocating for people with autism, whether that be our kids, ourselves, or others in our circles. Welcome, Tiffany. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so happy to have you here. But before we get started, I want to tell our listeners a little bit more about you. Tiffany Hammond is the voice behind the Fidgets and Fries platform. She is an autistic mother, advocate, and storyteller, and she uses her personal experiences with autism and those of her two autistic sons to guide others on their journeys. Tiffany has a master's degree in developmental psychology and spends her time teaching, coaching, and mentoring others in disability justice issues. Her activism is rooted in challenging the current perception of autism as a lifelong burden, cultivating a community that explores the concept of intersectionality, and inspiring thought leaders through storytelling, education, and critical discourse. Tiffany was born and raised in Texas and grew up on deep dish pie and stories from her grandmother. Tiffany, I want to start today with this beautiful challenge of the current perception of autism. What does it look like for us as a society to move from thinking about autism as a burden and instead normalize leading with the benefits and beauty of neurodivergent thinkers?
I think that this means that it's more opportunity for us and those like us. Right now, it feels like autism is just this set amount of symptoms and characteristics and expectations and stereotypes and misconceptions and all of these different things. And a lot of it is limiting. It puts those with this diagnosis into a box, and it labels it as you can only do this much, and not that many people around you are willing to help you be the best version of yourself that you want to be, right? So you're just kind of like going through life with all of these ropes and these lines and these tethers telling you this is who you are and this is what you can do. You can't go and do this because this is what it says autism is, and it says that you don't like to talk, or you are not good at social things, or you have or you're some type of savant, so you must know these things, or you must so it's just like a lot of different stereotypes and expectations, or lack of expectations for some, because a lot of people do not feel that my oldest, who is non-speaking, is competent enough to know what's going on around him, and so they don't expect much from him, including teachers, including therapists, including all kinds of people who are supposed to be working with him to help him navigate this world. They put these walls up around him, and they don't help him to move beyond these barriers because they don't think he can. And that's how it is for a lot of people with this diagnosis. Or there's people that are, like myself and my youngest, and they're like, well, we're all a bit quirky, and then they deny any of the other challenges and things that we do have. And then that causes us to internalize a lot of things, and that leads to depression, to anxiety, and to feeling like you're worthless and you don't belong, and you don't and then that trickles into every other part of your life. And a lot of us don't leave the house, and a lot of us don't work, and then a lot of us don't so you need you don't have friends. And and there's studies out there that say we need people, we need close relationships with others so that we feel good and happy and safe and protected and loved. And a lot of us don't have that. And I am trying to, with my platform and my writings and everything I'm doing, I'm trying to challenge what people perceive autism to be. And it doesn't have to be something that's like limiting. It doesn't have to be something that is um this burden, even with all the challenges that we may have, even with all the challenges that my oldest might have, many consider to be severe. And even with all of that, he's so much more. And he's growing and learning, and all humans are lifelong learners, and we never stop, no matter who you are. You just need people to believe. You need people that you have to have those accommodations and those services and those things that can, help us access the things that other people can access with ease. And that's what I'm trying to do is just point that out, say, hey, there's a lot that we all have to offer, and all beautiful humans, and we all um, learn, and we all grow, we all evolve, and we all, and some of us just need different things and different ways of helping us navigate this world. And that's me trying to challenge people to think about that more and know that more and put a mirror up, because every single one of us, if we have the absolute pleasure and privilege of living to be a long, old, beautiful age, we will know disability in some way. I don't know why people want to distance themselves from that, but we will know. We will get older, our brains will change, we'll get slower, we'll get, our eyesight will get weaker, and we're gonna know, we're all gonna know disability, and society tries to distance themselves from it. And I'm trying to say it's okay. So it's okay. Just, we're interdependent society, interdependent species, and we thrive and we survive with each other all the time. It's always been that way. Yeah, it's only just kind of been like recently, oh my God, we need to be more independent. We gotta be more independent. But people aren't independent. They're interdependent. We all rely on each other to make everything work. And so that's just kind of what I'm trying to do with my platform, is just put up all these little mirrors, face this, face this, face this, and try to challenge what people think about, not only just disability, but just like life in general, and how they navigate. Yeah.
One of the takeaways that I have had from your platform is, and like, society forces people to fit in a box that, we, whether it's somebody with autism or ADHD or anxiety, whatever it is, we have society forcing people into a box. And you are saying, how about society conforms to people who need extra accommodations? Or how about we as a society change ourselves instead of forcing people to change for society? And I just think that is such a refreshing perspective.
Yeah. I mean, it's so weird. It's just like, it's so weird about humans. You like to like categorize things, you have to put things in little boxes and stuff, and label them, and all labels and things aren't bad. It's how we try and make sense of the world. It's just what it is. But a lot of times it doesn't actually help us to make sense of the world. So it's just like we're all these different things. We're never just one thing. You're multiple things. You carry multiple identities, and they all influence each other, and they all build on each other, and they all, you know, interact with one another. And they come together, and they just create these new and unique and complex experiences when they're together. And I think that, especially when you come online, or like online advocacy or anything like that, I think a lot of people kind of tend to forget that. You almost forget that you're all these other things, because you're trying to be just this one thing, and you're trying to address this one thing. And I'm like, I was that way too. When I came online, I was like, I just want to stick with, connecting with other autism parents. But I couldn't fully connect with them. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to still connect with other autistic adults. I didn't fully connect with them, but I was chopping off one part of myself to belong to another group, and it was not serving me well at all. And it wasn't serving my children at all. And I was missing large chunks of myself. I was neglecting the nuances of my situations and my circumstances, and I wasn't giving much weight to the histories and context that I have in life. And I'm just here to remind people that, like, every single time, like, boom, you're whole, live whole. And I need to know that. And that's kind of hard to do in a social media space where everything is like easily digestible content. And you're like, okay. So it's like, how am I, me, who does not want to produce easily digestible content, how am I going to survive this space? And yeah, it took me a little bit to figure out how to do it. I think I got it because I didn't want to be like, this is, you know, 3 slides and some cartoons and a few words, and then now you were supposed to get it. You're supposed to understand like the whole of my life. No, if I have to write a book, I'm gonna have to figure out how to put it on there in a way that y'all can get. And I think I figured it out. So I just want to remind people that you are more than just one piece of yourself. And my community is super amazing and super beautiful and super wonderful. And they go out and they spread that. And like I see that and go in like other places. Yeah, but what about this? And what about, this type of situation? And some people can't access this. And, there's a lot of privilege in the things that you're saying. And this family can't get to this. Or we live in areas where there's literally no resources. How do we access this? So I can see that, and they're going out and challenging all these other um advocates on the things that they're putting out. Okay, that's fine and all, but what about these people who can't access this? What about this person who can't afford this? What about this person who lives over here? What about, I'm just trying to, like, thinking about every part of who you are and every part of who someone else is, and how best you can address the things that they tell you that they tell you that they struggle. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do on my platform. I'm trying to challenge people in every way that I can. Like, in every single way that I want to throw everything I can at you. I want to see how much you can hold. And that's the thing. I want to push you to the edge of your comfort and give you enough information and tools that I can for you to just make the decision to knock yourself over the line that you want. I'm gonna push you over. I'm gonna drag you to the edge. You do it yourself. Let you choose to do it yourself. It's like, that's like kind of what I'm trying to do. Just trying to change some things as I can. Yeah.
And you are, absolutely. One of the other key things I have heard you talk about in previous interviews is when you were working on your master's degree, it became very apparent to you that there's not a lot of inclusion of Black and Brown people in autism research, which has a lot of effects from there. Rates of diagnoses and treatment, it affects stigma around autism in Black and Brown communities, and serves to perpetuate systemic racism in healthcare in general. So you're a change maker. What does real change look like here? And how do you hope that sharing your story is inspiring others in the parent community to help incite that change?
I think that, first of all, real change won't really happen until we, as a community, can understand exactly what it means to listen to someone. Yeah, I know what listening means. And that's like one of the biggest things that we see in this community. Listen to autistic people, listen to this, listen to that, listen to that. But a lot of people don't actually mean listen. They mean conform to my authority because I hold this identity that you do not. And so therefore I know things that you do not, and I am. And so you're sitting there and I'm like, man. And then as the parent in me, to see someone feel as though they share an identity either with myself or with my children, but they feel like that grants them automatic access to my children because of that, that takes me back, turns me off. And I'm like, we have to get more familiar with the terminology that is surrounding this work and what we're doing. And I think that we have to know what listening really is, because you can't change the world if you're not doing what it is the people you are trying to help actually want you to do or actually need you to do. And so that's kind of like the thing that I run into. Advocacy is a lot of people will push off self-advocacy as advocacy for the whole. It's like, yeah, these are things that you need. These are things that I need. And so trying to get them to understand that is one of the biggest challenges, is because we have to know that change does not come from the top down. It doesn't trickle down. And that's what I was running into first started online or in advocacy in general. It was, I'm telling you my story. I'm telling you what we need. I'm telling you the specific problems that I am having as a disabled mom, a Black woman, raising Black children who have disabilities. And I'm telling you all the different things that we face and stuff. And I'm being told, okay, but we'll get to that later. We just need to fold everything in together as a group. Let's look at all the things it's like kind of affecting all of us in the same way. And I'm like, but I'm not just autistic, right? And so that was like, we have to find a way to use all the talents and the skills and the privileges that we have, and use that to help those who are multiply marginalized and need the most help. And you help those that have all of these complex intersections that, come together and create these really, really complex experiences. You help them, you're helping yourself, and that is where I believe that real change is going to come from. It doesn't come from listening to those who are as close to the epitome of privilege that we have, especially, we gotta help those who have all of these different marginalized identities that mix together in this big pot. And I think that's how we get real change, real meaningful, tangible change to occur, is if we are working to help those who are the most marginalized within our communities. And then we're actually listening to them. And we're actually seeing what it is that they need from us, what they require from us. And we're using everything that we can at our disposal to help them get that. And there's like no way on this earth that us helping them is not gonna help us in any way. And that's what I'm trying to also, put out there. Because a lot of times you sit there and you tell your story, and I tell mine, and some they feel like me telling my story is somehow denying theirs. And I know, I'm saying you don't struggle. I'm injecting mine as well, because we haven't had the opportunity or the space to tell you what it is that is bothering us, that hurts us, that keeps us at a disadvantage. We've always had to navigate this world and our advocacy under you guys, so it's like now we're finally having the space and the opportunity to share what it is that we have going on, share our short stories, and um for several people that upsets them, and but I do think that change is going to come if we focus on our most marginalized within our communities, and we learn to listen, and we familiarize ourselves with terminology that's surrounding all of this work, and we use it in a way that it's intended to be used. Because a lot of times we're turning things to buzzwords. I don't even use intersectionality as a term more. Like when I first was using it, when I first started social media talking about it, I was like, didn't see it that much. It was like a few people, me, and then, but now it's just kind of like balloon into this thing, and you just see it everywhere. And you see it from people who aren't even describing oppressed identities that intersect. They're describing an identity of privilege with an identity that's not privileged. And I'm like, that's not what intersectionality is. But, but it's just, that's the thing. Working with the most marginalized people in their community, seeing what it is that they need, and helping them to acquire what it is that they need, appropriately listening to everyone. You don't have to do what they say. You don't have to agree with what they say or any of that, but your listening is taking a deep consideration of what it is they have to say, and you can either apply that to your life or you can pass it on to someone else who you feel could use this information, um, or you could actually choose to listen to them with. You should always listen to someone with regard to this, what they're telling you that they need. I don't mean listen to someone telling you what you need, but if they're sitting there and they're telling you this is what this community needs, this is what we need help with, definitely, definitely as an advocate or someone who wants to help, who's an accomplice or describe themselves as an ally, help them to acquire what it is that they need. And I think that's how change is gonna happen. Change is gonna occur that way. We really, really need. You really, really.
It's so powerful. It sounds so simple, listening with intention. But you're absolutely right. That's such a good reminder for me of how powerful it is when we listen to understand, when we get curious instead of getting defensive, and when we actually move on what someone is telling us they need and not what we think they need.
Correct. That's the thing. That's the biggest things is, and especially if you are, because a lot of people come online and they're not coming online to be seen as advocates. They're just coming on here to learn, share pictures, do whatever. But this is a split. I feel like everybody should be, but they are coming out here to learn from advocates who people are saying they're advocates. And if you are branding yourself as an advocate beyond yourself and for others, then you do have to, like, a good portion of your work is literally listening. Like, you're literally listening to everybody else. You're literally trying to see what it is that they need. And I don't mean just like this community has an issue with listening to those who are not white, right? Like they could be autistic, it could be the parent, it could be the researcher, therapist, whatever. Because you sit there and you see these posts and they're like, well, majority of autistics feel this way, majority of them feel this way, and majority of this, majority of that. And then we're sitting back, other Black autistic people, other indigenous autistic, we're just sitting there, we're like, who polled us? Who included us in the studies? Who did these things? And we're like, we weren't included in any of those things. We weren't included in the vote that said most autistics feel this way. We weren't included in any of the studies conducted that said any of this. And majority of those diagnosed with autism around the world do not have social media. So where are we getting these numbers from? Where are we getting these thoughts from? Where are we getting these things? So it's, if you're coming into this and you're like building your advocacy and your platform on what the majority of any group feels like, whether it's parent, whether it's researchers, whether it's anything like that, you gotta figure out what the population was. Like, what's the sample? What's the group that was talked about when it's like, because I guarantee you a lot of it does not include BIPOC representation. Most of it does not. At all. A lot of it does not include non-speakers. It doesn't, a lot of them do not include those who have comorbid diagnoses such as intellectual disability. So it's like advocacy is hard. And I keep trying to tell people that. So I get messages and stuff, and they're like, how can I do this? I'm like, it is so hard. And I'm so happy that so many people do it. And I'm like, it's so hard. It is so hard because if you're doing it and you're doing it right, doing it well, you're trying to include everybody. You're trying to think about everybody, and you are thinking triple times, quadruple times, infinity times before you say anything that says majority feels. Or like you are literally trying to address and help all of these different people, all these different things, all these different situations, and trying to do it in a way that can help a lot of people. And that's hard. Advocacy is hard. Like it's so hard. I keep trying to tell me like, are y'all sure? Like it is so hard. And but there are a lot of people who come onto social media and they want to learn and they want to not to be full-blown advocates like myself, but how can they help? In what way can they help? Is there something they can do? Can they write letters? Can they call someone? Can they, well, organize a march? Can they do a sit-in? Can they do a walkout? Can they do a whatever? They want to help and they want to know the best ways that they can help and they want to learn and they want to be better informed humans. And that's a beautiful thing. And we just need to be able to tap into that desire and that hunger that they have, point them in the right direction, give them things that calls to action, give them things that they can do and that they can um share, with their communities. They can, put out there and stuff. But yeah, it's hard.
It is hard, and it's hard as a parent first. I mean, before you were even doing this work on a large scale advocacy work. Um, so let's talk about our parent listeners who have concerns that they have a child showing signs of autism. Talk us through how important is early diagnosis and how can parents best advocate for their children along this journey that can be very exhausting.
It's incredibly exhausting. And early early diagnosis is important. Just knowing and having, that time to put together, a course of action and a plan to help you and your child. Um, it's definitely important because the most resources and most accommodations and most services and most anything that you are going to get for your child and for yourself to help your child, that ends at age 22. And the bulk of it ends at 18. So it's incredibly important to get those diagnoses early if you can, um, or if you're able to. A lot of people are in areas where that's possible. Um, they diagnose, BIPOC children at lesser rates than white children. So that is a barrier, an obstacle there. But your child will receive the most services that they will ever get in their childhood. And that includes speech and that includes OT and that includes well, I'll say medical is different than school. They don't always go by, the okay, here you are, they got your medical clinical diagnosis. So we're gonna automatically give your child an IEP and put them, they don't actually do that. They try to do their own assessments and stuff, but it does help to have it. But schools do, they don't think schools are rough. um, but and it's an exhaustive journey for both parent and child. You're trying to figure out what you can do. You get hit with that diagnosis, and you're like, your head is spinning. You're like, oh man, what is going on? You don't know what to do. And both when both my children were diagnosed, like cried. It was just like, oh my God, what did I do? And I blame myself. And then they give you a stack of papers, and that's like that includes, the assessment and everything. But in the back, it was like, here's your list of resources you can do, all these books you can read, all these organizations you can sign up, and make sure you get on the waiver list for um the government programs. So when you turn 18 or something, get on that. You're just like looking at it. Now you're online. You're getting, when they were diagnosed, they give us the link for Autism Speaks 100-day kit or something. And so you're just looking at everything. You're like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And it's so much. It's like all at once. And you're like, what do I do? How do I do this? Where do I go? And it's so much. And what's so interesting is that your child didn't change. The child's the same before the diagnosis till after the diagnosis. But you're not thinking that. You're just like, you're freaking out. But the same. You just know a diagnosis and you know how to help. And you can start that day, you can start the next day, or you can, what I would advise, take like a week if you can, of not thinking about it all. Put the paper aside, put it away, don't put it, don't throw it, say throw it away. Go put it, put it in a drawer, and just enjoy your child, enjoy yourself, and you can think about what that diagnosis means to you, family, and everything else, but take some time. Just there, it's breathe, and then get into it. Come into it with a clearer head, and face that together. Have a conversation with your family and whoever you want to know. Um, but just enjoy your child. Go play. Go to a park. Go to a weekend trip somewhere. Go do something that's gonna make you happy. Have fun, and then you can get into all of that. But I will say that if you suspect that your child may have autism or is autistic, definitely don't wait. Don't wait. I think that was what I did with my youngest. It was like I suspected he was like 3. You're like, oh, let's just wait and see. Just wait and see. And then I waited 3 years. So don't wait at all. Get them evaluated and trust your gut. Do not wait and see. A lot of people just like to do that. Then wait and see, especially with the ones who are verbal, or let's just wait and see. Oh, they're just shy. You just need to get out more, be around more kids. You just need to talk a little bit more. And they need to, but your gut, because you're around it. You're around your child. You're that doctor or that um clinical psychologist or whoever you're going to. They know your child for like a fraction of what you do. So you trust your gut. You trust your instinct. You go to as many as you can to look at if you have to, but trust yourself. Y'all know more. We know more than we think we do. So it's trust your gut. If you feel like they need to be assessed, definitely do that. Do not wait at all. Go and get them evaluated and help them to access any services and things that they need. And because you need that diagnosis to open those services up. So you can't go into getting into anything like speech or like your insurance problem, like you gotta go in. You need the diagnosis, and that's gonna open up a lot of resources and uh therapy for your child should they need that. um you need that diagnosis. Like, so it's definitely important that you get it as early as you can, especially in the States where a lot of stuff is tied with having diagnosis. Even a lot of extracurricular activities, it's like outside of school or ran by the city that you feel like your child would be good with, and you're like, oh, okay, this is the even they sometimes require you to have actual formal diagnosis so you can join and participate into those things. So it's definitely important to get that diagnosis, as early as you can, so that you can open yourself up and your family up to receiving the help that your child will need. Yeah.
So helpful. And such incredible perspective, Tiffany. Thank you. I want to talk about a fabulous new resource, which is your new children's book, A Day with No Words, inspired by your oldest son and illustrated by Kate Cosgrove. Tell us about your inspiration for the book, how you hope it serves to normalize nonverbal communication, and where our listeners can get a copy.
That's so wild. It's the book, oh, it's so weird. It has such the weirdest origin story. But I like I was telling you before we got on, it's like I was not in the children's book. Like I was like, is anybody like been on my platform for like however many long? I'm like, I talk about heavy stuff, hard stuff, all kinds of stuff, and occasionally I mention my family. And but I was being approached by editors and other people with publishing houses, agents, and all this other stuff. And they were like, hey, we should write a children's book. I'm like, what in my platform gives you children's book vibes? And so I was like, aside from me being a parent, I didn't see myself doing children's books. Um, but I made a post one day and I was just talking about our family's no talk days. And these are just the days that um we model more for our son and for Jojo, his brother. Um, we model more for Abe, and we just don't speak, and we just kind of go about the day using our own tablets, using our own things, and we even do it with each other. So like, you don't hear us speak at all, and we do that in the community and everything. I wrote about that. I wrote about our experiences, how that looks, and how the community treats us, and how we feel when we do this, and how we feel Aiden feels from us helping him and doing this for him. And that post was like cool. Like I was like, whoa, people like that. That's cool. And I was like, this will know, move on, didn't think about it. Then I got approached by another editor and they're like, hey, you're writing children's book. It's like, other kid. And then I was like, okay, let me listen. Let me listen. And she suggested I write a children's book based on that post. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. So after kind of going like back and forth and the things that I had and I liked, in the end, we did not mesh well, but that was the longest time that I spent thinking about and actually trying to write a children's book. So now it was stuck in my head. It got stuck. It was there. Um, and this was around the time that I was noticing a lot more that I wasn't seeing accurate representation of my son within this community and how he presents and the things that he needs, and I wasn't really like seeing. I was like, man, but then I go outside, same thing. All the comments we get, all the stares we get, all the man, I might be on to something with this book. And so I was like, I have to finish this book. I have to see it through in some way. And so I was gonna do it self-published. I didn't even have it written, but I knew I wanted to write it. And I was going backwards with it. I didn't have the words for it yet fully. And I was like, it made a call for illustrators and stuff because I just wanted to see how much it cost me and all these other. So I made a post about illustrators. And shortly after that, my current publisher was publishing this book, and she reached out to me and said, hey, we should have a conversation. And I said, cool, let's talk. And so we talked and we talked about the book. And I pitched this book, the ideas, didn't have the actual story yet. Pitched it to her, pitched how important I felt the book was and what I could do with it and how important it was to me to like put this out. And she was like, let's do it. And so here we are with it. And what I wanted this book to do was I wanted to normalize communication outside of speech. I wanted to highlight that those who do not speak from their mouths have so much to say, and they're just as worthy, and they're just as beautiful, and they're just as competent, just everything, everything. But I also wanted to point out that we all communicate non-verbally, literally. Like, they're reading this book. I'm sure a lot of them read it to themselves. And that's me. That's my message to you guys. I didn't even have to tell you. You just read it. That's my letter to you. And you got the message. You read the message. You heard the message. You text each other, you send emojis, you wave, if you like something, you smile real big. It's just like, and people understand what it is that you're saying without you saying. So I also wanted to challenge people in that way. So even with the title, it was like Day with No Words. And I'm like, all right, what do you think about the title? And if you finish this book, what do you think about the title now? Because we did nothing but use words. This whole book, like this entire book. But it was inspired by a lot of things that people's that people say to us when they learn that my son doesn't speak. They're like, does he not know words? Does he know words? Does he understand them? I'm like, he knows words, he just don't speak them. And that is the beauty of the title, because it's like challenging you to think about what that meant. So you could be like, oh my gosh, we are using words. Use a lot of words. They're on a tablet that has pictures. You push it and it talks. And then in certain instances, I was typing on the tablet and it, you know, talked for me. And I wanted to show that he was just as valid as everyone. And I wanted people to see that. And also look at a boy who loved life. And he loved a lot of the same things other kids do. And he loved to go to the park. He loved swings. He loved spinning in grass with no shoes on. And he loves fries, all these things. And he just doesn't speak. He understands. And I wanted to show like the bond that I had with my son, how important he was to me, that I was going to do these days and put up with these people, and still like that happened for real. And that was the time where I got better at sticking with communicating with the tablet. But several times before that, I would drop that tablet. It was on, and just talk. Like it was just like, but I felt bad after. I was like, yeah, so stick with it. And that was one of the first times that that situation happened, in that I just stayed with it. And I literally, in the book, where she breathes and she just like tries to calm herself down. Me, really, I'm breathing, calming myself down so I can go in and communicate that in that way. And I wanted to just show that meaningful and powerful communication can come from any one of us, in any way that we could type it, you could write it, you could draw it, you could do anything. And I wanted to show that in that way. And Kate did an amazing job articulating a whole lot of that. A whole lot of it. She did so good.
Congratulations. It is an incredible book that I know is going to inspire a lot of people. And where do we get a copy?
Oh man, it's like everywhere books are sold right now. It's I have a site, a daywithnowords.com, and pre-order on there. But yeah, it's pretty much everywhere. In local shops, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, Amazon, everywhere.
Perfect. You talked about this a little bit earlier. When I think parents receive any kind of diagnosis for our kids, we immediately jump to wondering about their future, asking ourselves all kinds of questions. Is my child going to be able to live independently? Will they be able to have a job? So, what are some key things that employers or businesses can do to be more autism friendly, whether it's directly with autistic employees or indirectly, maybe with employees who have autistic kids or family members?
I think that employers, they got to do a lot of work on all fronts, like with helping with the families, like coordinating with the families, as well as addressing the individual as well. So there's like a lot of like programs, kind of like when they get closer to being like age 18, and they're kind of like getting closer to aging out of the school system and stuff, where they have these transition programs where they are going out into the community, and they are um starting to like work and I want to say like work and things like that. I say air quotes like that, and it's because I feel like a lot of times these programs in these schools and things are not serious,
Mm,
and they don't feel as though this child, this person, this almost adult is actually going to hold a job or actually going to benefit from having a job. So they don't think they take these programs seriously. And a lot of times, I forgot what documentary it was that I watched. It wasn't that long ago, but they were talking about how employers can actually get away with paying disabled people less than, and I that is infuriating. And they really can. And I think that we need employers, we need lawmakers, we need society in general to presume competence. And we and when you do that, then you are going to do everything you can to prepare that child when they're young, when they're a teen, they're soon to be adult, in a way that will help them to develop those skills that they can get the job or do a job, even if it's just a few hours a week, even if it's late, but at least to be like meaningful and real for them, and be compensated in a way that other people are also compensated as. But a lot of times it's just like, just gonna, just going to go to school. Um, they're not really gonna actually really have a job, but not really actually gonna do these things. And so it's not really like teach them or nothing, or, so it's just like see that a lot. And that's something that has to change. There's a lot of what we're learning, well, especially me, is that there are a lot of non-speakers who learned to communicate through spelling, and we are learning a lot about what it is that they were thinking when they were young, and how much they knew, but they couldn't articulate the things that they knew. They couldn't tell you they knew this math. They couldn't tell you they knew these things. They couldn't tell you they knew these words, but they knew them. And they were 15 years old and still, learning 2 plus 2 or something, or still reading picture books and things because teachers didn't feel like they knew or they didn't understand anything. And that is a lot of how our school systems work, how the employers think, if we can change that around, we can just presume that they know, assume that they know and treat them as they know, but just accommodate for how they communicate, accommodate for the sensory needs that they have, but teach them the same types of material, teach them the same things. My son is 16, but he's not a baby in a 16-year-old body. He's 16 and he likes teenager things. He just doesn't speak. He just doesn't, you know, um, his body just doesn't move in the same way as others do. So I think that's a big challenge and a big hurdle that we have to get over, because if our employers feel that, those like my son don't know enough to work, they aren't going to treat them as if they know enough to work. And they aren't going to want to pay them as if, the livable wages, and they aren't going to want to train them, and they aren't going to want to have them have a decent job there. You don't want them going to on these work field trips and just have it be like a plaything where they're just kind of pretending to do these things and not something that they can actually probably do later on in life. That stuff. So that's one of the biggest things to change. We need to work towards changing that and changing the perceptions of what it is to be autistic, and especially a non-speaking autistic person, especially someone who is like my son, who is non-speaking, but also has an additional diagnosis of intellectual disability, which I also feel he probably has that because he doesn't speak. And so it's like a lot of different layers and stuff. I think that's what we have to do. We have to challenge these things. And then there's no way that we can live in a society where we're okay with paying disabled people far less than minimum wage and saying that that's okay. And so and having transition programs that don't really feel like they're transitioning them into anything but being more dependent on the state and more dependent on their parents and their families, and who are also aging at the same that they are. And so we just need to be better, and we have to do better, and we have to challenge these systems, things like that, all the time. And who knows, my son may live with me the rest of his life, but he's gonna be as interdependent as possible while living with me, and doing his own thing, and making his own, money, and doing it he can, because I feel like that's something that he can accomplish in his life too. So I'm trying to get people to see.
So, speaking of change, a lot of times I think the most impactful change can start in our homes. So, as we close out today, Tiffany, for parents of kids who are not neurodivergent, how can we raise our children to be individuals who seek to understand, welcome, and celebrate neurodivergent people and help create a world that does the same?
I think it helps with exposing them to different people in the first place, whether that is um through a really well done documentary or movie or book or whatever, just as many opportunities as you can to show them um someone who is living in a different way that they are, and then talking about it afterwards, and um acknowledging their own privileges and the things that they have, and the things that they're able uh to do, and then also looking at some of the stuff that they're not able to do themselves, like, you know and making them think about, wow, should I be treated less than or differently because I can't quite do this yet or at all or whatever, just thinking, taking large chunks of their lives and having them think more deeply about what it that means for them, and then applying that to someone else. And that's kind of like the biggest thing that I do with my platform, is just trying to get people to see themselves in a little bit of something that I share, and have them think more deeply and more meaningfully. Is it? I don't know. And think more deeply about who they are, and tapping into that. And they have to be able to see those other people. They have to be able to know those other people. They have to be able to, a lot of times we hide those, like my oldest, and we hid for so long, like 10 years or so, just at home, because we just couldn't take the comments, stares, all these things. So a lot of times they aren't exposed to, you know, uh, children like mine. because there weren't that many. And even when my son would go to school, he was in school districts, no matter if it was in a town that only had 7,000 people or in a town that had 180,000 people. He was the only one in the school, like in the whole school. And so it's like they don't have this exposure like that. But then they go into like a aquarium on weekend or the zoo when they come into contact with my child there, and now they're confused. Like, why is he making all these noises? Why is he on the tablet? Why is that this? But they should learn about should learn about how there's different people in the world and that it's okay and differences are just differences. They're not good, they're not bad, they're not anything, they're just neutral. And it's just a way of life. And differences can be so beautiful. And it shouldn't be anything that needs to be feared and anything like that. But a lot of times they are, because in part they don't have a lot of exposure to those who are disabled. They don't see them in their books, they don't see them in their shows, they don't see them in their anything like that. They don't have friends that are like that. And so, and then a lot of times when they do come into contact with someone who is disabled and they are curious, they're shushed by their parents. And and so it's like that's like adding to it, like, my son will make a noise and little boy will be like, what's that? Shh, and it's like, so now he's scared more from when he wasn't scared in the first place. Honestly, he was just curious. Um, so it's just a lot of things. They need that exposure to experiences that are outside their own, that are outside what's considered limit, in any way that they can. You have to have representation. So they have to we have to actively seek out those experiences if we're not surrounded. So definitely, watch those movies and read those books and um, go on those documentaries, volunteer for I think they got like Special Olympics and some other things in your area. A lot of areas have adaptive sports, things like that. So like find all these ways to get as close to these experiences that they do not know as possible, so that they can learn those things, and they can learn those things, and they can be better people, things like that. So exactly what I was trying to do with this book and try to get them in schools, so like they can kind of see that and learn from that, and hopefully hit them when they're kind of young, and hopefully that changes their worldview, so it opens it up. Yeah.
Love that. Thank you so much for your time today, Tiffany, for the opportunity to learn from you, and what incredible wisdom and perspective you've shared with our parent audience today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
For our listeners, find more presentations by nationally renowned parenting experts like Tiffany through membership in the Modern Art of Parenting. Visit modernartofparenting.com to learn more about memberships, which are just $19 a month or $199 for the year, with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Thanks everyone for listening. Join us next time on Raising OKC Kids.